Hey there, welcome back to Broken Arrow. Today, playing on the Oil Rush map. I'm using Special Forces Airborne, still definitely one of my favorite decks. And, of course, that's potentially a little more difficult on this map. You got no opportunity to flank. But, as it turns out, well, this deck's gonna have to just hold the front line. I'm gonna try something new this time around. I'm gonna go open with a Grey Eagle. That's one of my drones. And it is loaded out with a couple of stingers. This is to do two things. One, spot things. Two, serve as a distraction for fighters. Well, and arguably three, if an enemy fighter does decide to go for it with a shorter range missile, it can shoot back. It carries a couple stingers. You can see that my team, randoms that is opening up with all sorts of gear. I'm seeing quite a lot of arty, which I personally wouldn't call at the early stages of the battle, but okay. Some people do different things. I'm going to do a little bit of a potentially weird tactic here. I'm going to open up with an MC-130. An empty one. There's nobody inside, except a few pilots, that is. And this is going to be just kiting. Because, basically, when people see an MC-130, they're going, oh, snap. That's a lot of juice. That's a lot of points. We're going to shoot that down. And they tend to then overextend. They tend to want to shoot this thing down so much that they just risk the plane. Which is fine, because we got a couple of Patriots already spawned in. You can see there's 5 fighters plus 1 aircraft on the enemy team, which is capable of dropping. And they are all nicely going for the MC-130. At this point, I'm going to spawn in 2 Raptors and start shooting everybody else down. The Grey Eagle unfortunately didn't last for very long, but, well, I guess that was kind of to be expected. We're going to go after one of these guys. There's the other Eagle. But they also got a Harvest Hawk. I'm kind of thinking they've already dropped off because the Harvest Hawk is turning around. Unless this guy was also kiting. I'm not sure. Now, as you might see, my Raptors are not strictly loaded out as fighters, as I'm trying in this particular match a new type of setup where I have these things loaded out with a couple of smaller JDAMs. That's going to give me some strike capability, so that I have a dual role aircraft. I typically find that the Raptor is good enough. It doesn't necessarily need to do a whole lot of AA. So I decided, why? Well, just test it out, see if it works. Now at this point we have scored 15-15 versus 14-20, but the enemy has already started taking a cap. So yeah, they're a little bit ahead on that point. Now, at this point, time to start bringing in some stuff. As the initial onslaught of aircraft has finished, I'm going to load up an Osprey, which, yes, can still be dangerous. That's a lot of eggs in one basket. And this is, however, a fast way to get over, because we don't have much going to Alpha and Bravo, and I do want to have at least something resembling a presence there. This is, I'd say, not necessarily an easy map for the deck that I've selected. Airborne, Special Forces, they typically want to roam free, if you will. They want to have some operational range so that they can flank, they can potentially find high-value targets, they can do raids on the enemy's secondary line, taking down artillery, taking down high-value AA. Unfortunately, of course, I'm not really getting that opportunity on this map, but we can still do some. Now, I'm going to use the Osprey here to drop off forces quickly. I cannot drop them very close to the front line because there's already some stuff coming up there. And the Osprey is already taking fire. It is hovering low. Nevertheless, you can see that there is what seems to be a short-range AA system shooting at me. Most likely man-pads. So immediately get everybody out and fly the Osprey away, trying to get it back to base. Osprey takes another hit. Thankfully, everybody has dismounted. That's a pretty good position for the weapon squad. STT is going to sit there, shooting down helicopters. Ranger Mods are going to go there. TOW-2B is going to go there. Unfortunately, this map, I find it a bit challenging to find a good spot for the TOW-2B. You got obstructions everywhere. So finding a good position for a TOW-2B, I don't know. If you have any, I'd be interested in finding better positions. Because right now, I'm not getting the best range of those TOW-2Bs. Now, the enemy is capping a lot of the map. They already got 57% of the caps in our control, and we have nothing. Not necessarily the end of the world, but of course it is definitely going to be in our importance or in our interests to start capping some stuff. The enemy is already at Bravo, which is closest to their spawn, so it makes sense. And I'm going to try and at least keep people out of Alpha so that my ally can push up there. And he is pushing up with a bunch of other units. Over on the right, we seem to have decent control. There's already somebody pushing into Foxtrot. You can see that they are coming into Alpha right about now. There's also a Prowler coming in. You can see Delta forces roaming around in the front line. They're taking some sniper fire, but it's not that lethal. Like, it won't end them. There's just too many of them, too much health there. At this point, I don't really have enough forces to start pushing up, but I do already see some interesting targets. So I'm going to bring in a Brutus. I want to start hammering some of these targets. Now, this is something that I'm thinking of changing in this deck. I feel like I don't have enough fire support. I need to have a second Brutus, because sometimes they manage to get the kill on mine. Sometimes the Brutus runs empty, and I want to have more fire support. Especially as my recon is typically very good, but I can't capitalize on it. So that's something I want to change. I want to have more Brutus in this deck, or more fire support. You can see the enemy is making some waves at Echo. My fire support units are not very much in a good position there. And over here they're also trying to get a bit more towards my forces. My fire teams don't really get a shot off. They don't have a good line of sight there. Because this area, close to Bravo, there's just stuff everywhere. There's buildings, there's these oil drums, there's obstructions everywhere. It makes it quite difficult to get a good line of sight. And there you go, they already managed to eliminate one of my teams. I'm going to fall back a little bit, because they can just keep pushing. And I'm having some trouble defending myself. So I'm not going to give them the opportunity to push that hard. I'll just take some more advantageous buildings, and from there, hold the line. Let's drop off there, behind that, I don't know, trash pile, whatever that is. There's a Kiowa over there, and unfortunately the STT cannot get a shot. There's more helicopters coming in now. There's a couple of killer eggs. Not good news, typically, as they will potentially very, very, very quickly murder your infantry. I'm lasing up the airborne there. This is so that the Warpig with its Fletcher launcher can get a shot off, if it can find a decent line of sight. And once it does, they actually start shooting these missiles fairly quickly, and manage to push the air team, the airborne out of the building there. Get my vehicle back. STT is eagerly awaiting the arrival of the killer egg. There's a hit. Unfortunately, the killer egg does manage to do a lot of damage against the Warpig, but otherwise it survives. And I think I got the second one as well. Immediately pull the STT back, they know where I'm at. And on top of that, I don't have that many stingers left. Let's go get some more. Brutus standing by. Where are we going to go? Well, I was thinking if I can laze that helicopter, I can guide a shell right through its windshield. So that's my plan. In the meanwhile, you can see that Delta Force, seemingly the standoff version of Delta Force is what he's using, is trying to push my weapon squad out of position, and I'm going to let him, because I don't want to lose them. Let's get some Ranger snipers deployed. I got a slam ram in case they use more helos. There we go. I think it was the ST... No, actually it was probably the Brutus that got the kill. Global Hawk in position. Unfortunately, I don't have my slam ram into position fast enough, but somebody else takes it out. Not too much of a problem. Ranger snipers need to fall back. I'm trying to shepherd my forces a little better than I typically do. I want to keep them alive as much as possible. It's always cheaper to resupply them than to have them needlessly go down, because you're also going to be paying a bit of a price trying to bring in more units, of course. There is a bomber coming in. It's a Lancer. You can see it's a low-flying bird, and it's just leveling everything in its path, including the Brutus. Yeah, I wasn't happy about that one. Oh well. At any rate, we managed to get our forces mostly on cover. But at this point, I am losing some units, some fire support, especially. That can be a problem, because now I cannot push. I cannot hammer their positions, so I'm going to have to kind of wait for another Brutus to come in. I saw that bird come in, so that's why I called in the Raptor. Of course, the Raptor is now a little late, but hey, maybe I can still use it for something else. Let's get some additional supplies in. I'm going to try and get the Rangers to do some spotting. I might not be the only sniper team out here, so I'm going to have to carefully make my way over. And this is when that Raptor, with its bomb loadout, is going to come in handy. Because I can see Special Forces over there, Delta. And I want to get my laser-guided bomb off. Unfortunately, I don't actually have any laser guidance in position, so we'll just have to kind of guesstimate it. And hey, that's still half of a Delta squad gone. So fly low, afterburner on, deploy some decoys, and we're already out of the area. So a bit of a multi-role strike bird at this point. Flyer GMV standing by there, making sure that nothing else can come in. You can see that Delta plus a couple of Rangers are kind of pushing me out of position. I don't have a whole lot of fire support. My Brutus has died, I need to fall back, because I simply cannot hold this line. Little Bird immediately gets murdered by the Flyer GMV. That Flyer GMV gets a hefty response from 2 Thunderbolts and something else in the tree line. So we can expect some Thunderbolts to be coming in here. Thunderbolts with their APS are now taking fire from the toes. So hopefully I can still get a little bit of that APS removed. Making sure that the helicopter which is coming in, the Comanche, with its Hellfires can finally kill these things off. Left needs help. I do try to communicate with my teammates as much as possible because it is easier to have some teammates and get them to help than have to reconquer this whole area with an enemy that's already dug in. Now you can see I did do some damage against one of those Thunderbolts, but the other one is perfectly fine, and my TOW2 team has died. But now the Comanche is coming in, and unless I have missed something, they don't have that much anti-air close. Just for safety, I should have pushed that helicopter to fly low. Come on. You can see that even the Helo is having some difficulty locking onto things. This one's loaded out with Hellfire, Dagger, and Stinger, so it's got a bit of everything. It's a very, very versatile helicopter. There's one kill. The Comanche is now out of Hellfires, but the Thunderbolts can take it out. Kill. Thank you very much. Alright, so that's that thing done. Interestingly, my sniper team has not yet detected anything else, but it's going to be oh so important later on. That's a nice Avenger you got there. Shame if something happened to it. I'm not sure if I got a hit there, but at least I managed to do some damage and push the Avenger out. And at this point I think I realized, oh, I'm fighting myself. I'm fighting a Special Forces airborne deck. That's exactly what I'm encountering here. Ranger Sniper over here standing by to engage that MTV Javelin. Of course, I don't need to engage it with the sniper team, because my sniper team is far more valuable just relaying information, rather than going on the offensive. So I have absolutely no inclination whatsoever to shoot that thing up. You do see that my guys are, well, preparing to take shots at it, but at the moment I don't want them to. They always try to line up a shot. There's the Apache Guardian. Apache Guardian seems to prioritize getting the pilot over there eliminated. I'm not sure that's a high value target, but whatever. Let's take it out. And finally I can spawn my Brutus back in. Apache Guardian falls back. I don't really have a plan to be pushing there because they got a Slam Ram and I think a Shore Rat as well from another player. So instead I'm going to try and laze that Apache Guardian. If I can get some shells right through their windshield, they too will die. And this is what I like about the Special Forces deck. Most, if not every unit, has a laser. Which makes it just so much more convenient. Especially if you have laser-guided weapons. So I've tried to have a bunch of laser-guided weapon systems on my different platforms. Such as the Warpig, such as the Apache, such as the Comanche, and of course my Brutus. I kind of forgot about my tanks here, much to my detriment. One of the tanks very, very nearly died. You can see that my ally is having some fun shooting up the enemy artillery. No, sorry, the enemy AA over there. Points-wise, it's an interesting bunch. It is almost the end of phase 1. We're standing to make a +2 from kills. But the enemy is standing to make a +2 from conquest points. So our map control is not good. But it's come at the expense for the enemy of having a lot of losses. There's something to be said for either playstyle. I'm very interested to see how this is going to develop, because I saw that, oh, we got the kills. That means that they are weak somewhere. We just have to find that, and once we do, we'll be able to take the area back. At the moment, though, that's not really going to help us, not in phase 1. That was a close call. That was the Apache Guardian throwing a missile out. Brutus is in range, preparing to shoot the Apache. The sniper team is already lasing the Apache, and there we go, end of phase 1. Moving up with some of the Rangers and the sniper team. It's a nice Avenger they got there. I should have eliminated that. Brutus preparing to shoot. And unfortunately, and I didn't even know this was possible, the Brutus, the shell of the Brutus seemingly got decoyed or just, it got mitigated by the chaff or the ECM or the flares of the Apache. I don't know how that works because a shell like that is not radar guided. It's not going after a heat-seeking target. It's just going after the endpoint of the laser. So I'm not sure exactly how that worked, but I was quite surprised about the fact that it did not work as well as I had intended. Thankfully, some of my teammates are on point there defeating the enemy AA. I got potentially another shot at pushing up here. So let's get into some additional forces to position, and we can already see another bunch of airborne. Lasing the target, not so much because I want to get some high value targets on it, but hey, it's a start. Maybe the Brutus can be a bit more effective once it's there. Unfortunately, of course, they start moving right when I start lasing them. Alright, fine. Maybe the Apache still has some shots left. Unfortunately, it actually does not. It only has its, its stingers left, but the enemy is pushing me. So I do want to try and at least get some suppression in with the main gun. It's not a great option, but at present, it's the only fire support-esque unit that I have. So let's just get some damage in, maybe force the enemy to not attack me as hard. Dissuade them a little, if you will. Nice couple of deltas out in the open there. Warpig coming in. Warpig is picking an interesting time getting there, and unfortunately that's the end of the Comanche, as I think it was a Guardian that was able to get in there and take it out. This is an absolute misplay, and the moment that I see those Ranger Mauls come in, I immediately move my guys back, because that was very, very, very dangerous. That could have ended the Thunderbolts pretty quick. So immediately pull them back, make sure that they don't actually get an engagement in. And you can see that shell from the Brutus just arcing right onto the building. Something I'm not sure about is how do I stop lasing? I don't know how I stop lasing. Which is why I just moved the sniper team out of position. Of course, it's not exactly the best way to go about it. It's something I have to learn. By the time that you're watching this video, I might have either picked it up, or you can leave me a comment down below and let me know how you do that. Now, that Avenger has to go, because it's murdering some helicopters of my teammates. There's Delta pushing up, and I want to get those Delta guys out of there, especially before my already decimated weapon squad comes in. You can see that I have found some high-value targets with the sniper team on the flank, and I was actually rather surprised that I could get that far. Where is the enemy flanking? Or rather, are they? At present, they're very much not. So that gives me an opportunity, potentially, to start shooting high-value targets, or wait for my allies to do exactly that. Now, sniper team engaging some airborne. Of course, that's not going to be a fair fight, so I'm going to pull out immediately. Even if it was a fair fight, I wouldn't exactly want to take that fight. Over at Alpha, the enemy is launching an offensive, and the Thunderbolts happen to be at the right location at the right time. Unfortunately, the snipers that I had at Alpha are immediately decimated. This is when I finally spot that Slam Ram opportunity kill. And my own Slam Ram standing by. I think I don't actually sell it off yet. Thunderbolts engaging the AAV. Sorry, the ACV. That thing has to go there. Kill their fire support first, and then the infantry will slowly but definitely die. Now you can see that our map control is going entirely the wrong way. We are now in control of 14% of the caps. The enemy has 86%, and if this persists, they're standing to make a whole 6 points. Our kills aren't good enough of an advantage to actually warrant any kind of points. And if they capture even more of our terrain, it's entirely possible that we'll go into sudden death, which means you got 2 minutes to recapture at least 1 point, or you're out of the fight. Oh boy. Here comes a B2, and kaboom. One of my Thunderbolts dies, the second one also dies, my infantry has died. Other than that, I didn't have much there. And they do lose the B2. And there we go, there's the sudden death. I think this was very much a coordinated effort. They wanted to push on A. They wanted to remove any fire support that they had, or rather that I had, trying to support everybody at A. So that's why they threw the nuke. Sometimes people throw nukes somewhat haphazardly or carelessly. This, I would say, was not that. Now, we got 90 seconds to get back into the fight. So I'm immediately rushing all of my forces out. Getting an Osprey in, because it's the fastest transport I got. We need to get back at Alpha. If I lose some shit, so be it. But we have to get back into this fight, or this is going to be a massive problem. At this point, though, I'm not sure how much they got left at Alpha, so I just rush in. Well, somewhat carelessly, because this could have cost me some units. Dropped them off at the last second. Marines are going down. My Warpig was eliminated. My Humvee was destroyed, but we are capturing Alpha. So it is working, albeit slowly. Apache living a very, very, very lucky life there. And I'm not sure if that's going to survive for a long time. Here comes the Osprey with all the Rangers. Flying in low. Unfortunately, there's too much anti-air. And as such, that's a dead Apache with 3 Ranger squads inside. Yikes. Not great. Quick peek at my kill-death ratio there, which was less than spectacular. But hey, we're still in this fight. We still have an opportunity to come back. We still have an opportunity to win. So, it wasn't great at this point, but we had at least some opportunity to get some damage in. We're still in the fight, and if they take 2 points, so be it. We might still have a chance to come back in the 3rd round. Let's get a couple of F-35s in. These are Seed F-35s. I'm typically flying them low, having their weapons off before, and then they join in. They fly a little bit closer in. They pop up, they throw their harms, and ideally overwhelm the enemy. I'm still not sure if this is a great loadout, because you can see that the enemy has a lot of AA. And all of these harms just get intercepted. That's 660 points that I just sent, and I'm not really getting anything to show for it. My F-35s thankfully do seem to survive, so that's a win. And there's another nuke. This one was ours, though, giving us a few points. But we're not really getting a whole lot of map control for it. Although we're back at 29% versus 57% for them. So you can see that Alpha is neutral at the moment, but it is going to get flipped. And there is an Abrams from our side, but it's going to get completely pushed out of the way there. There you go. At this point, I don't have much trying to push on Bravo anymore. I have STT teams over there because the enemy keeps pushing in with helicopters. I mean, they're airborne too. What are you going to do? Aside from that, I got no infantry, really. Not much to speak of. I got Green Berets. And I'm just kind of waiting for more points to be available. Because at the moment, I want to see where this fight goes. I want to see if I need to push on Alpha. Or if I can have an opportunity to start flanking around and potentially attack Bravo from the side. Would be great, but there's a lot of AA around, so that makes it a bit more difficult. Now, this MTV was going to support everybody at Alpha, but Alpha is no longer ours, so I decided to relocate this MTV and drop all the supplies somewhere else. That Sentinel almost gave me in. Oh no, shit, there's another nuke coming in. But this time around, thankfully, it wasn't that. Call another one of those Greybirds, because I want to see if I can get some additional spotting. Unfortunately, not quite yet, but the Apache Guardian doesn't necessarily need a whole lot of spotting. And it immediately gets pushed out. The Silent Hawk I had completely forgotten about. I was intending to do more flanking. And yeah, I completely forgot about it. So drop off the Green Berets inside. And prepare to do more flanking operations. Brutus is currently resupplying. We've got 2 Apaches. The Guardian is going to get sold off because I don't need it at the moment. The Apache might come in handy. Haven't quite decided where to send it yet. F-22 Raptor trying to cover the escape for the F-18. Unfortunately, doesn't quite get the range. I take a hit, flare, fly low, afterburner on, and leave. Now, as the Apache had exhausted my STTs, that little bird is not really going to get any kind of AA response. So it's going to be down to the Green Berets just to snipe it out of the sky with their, I think their M82 or their M107. Their high caliber weapon anyway. Split up the Green Berets in the flank. And you can see I'm just holding a front line, if you want to call it that, with 2 units of infantry and 1 artillery unit. And that is it. There's nothing else out here. Enemy airborne coming in. At this point, I decided to push in my sniper team, which was the worst thing I could do. I thought I could get into the building before, but I couldn't. And these guys, I think, don't even fire a single shot because they got minimum range on all their weapons. So they're just going to get murdered. Had I pushed in the STT, this might have been a different fight, so that's a bit of a mistake there. There's a nice supply dump over there at Bravo, and they thought I couldn't see that, but my snipers could. So relocate the Brutus away from there, and then go after those 7,000, yes, 7k points of supplies. At this point, of course, the Green Berets that I had are dead. I'm pulling the STT back to get them resupplied. And let's get some additional units in, shall we? How about Delta? My Delta are set up for short-range encounters. Every time I want to snipe a high supply value target, somebody else takes the kill with their MLRS. Oh well. My Deltas are set up for short-range encounters, so the CQC variant, and that gives me an opportunity to push people out in a very urban environment. In this particular AO, it's not great. Because you tend to miss the high-end range that you could have used. There we go. That's their supply dump eliminated. Let's get the Brutus to engage again. My kill-death ratio is now 0.93. But my team over on the far right-hand side is doing a very good job. Which means that the enemy, at the end of Phase 2, which is soon, with their map control, might make a +4. But we, too, will be getting +4. So as long as it keeps us on an even footing, I don't mind it. Now, time to come in with a B2 Spirit. Unfortunately, this run, I mismanage it. What I wanted to do was start throwing cruise missiles at high-value targets, such as artillery batteries, AA positions, and the such. But while I was sending this bird in, I didn't actually turn it away in time. And on such a small map, you don't really get a lot of time to turn around, let alone with a bird this big. So I think all the missiles got intercepted, and my bird gets shot out of the sky. Close call there. I think they shoot again. There we go. They got it. Unfortunate. B2 Spirit eliminated. Which means that the kill-death ratio is now less. That means the enemy is going to make a potential +4, and we're going to make a +2. Not great. At least I do get an opportunity to start spotting everything that they're spawning in, so that's going to help me potentially with what else I need to bring in. Delta has arrived. Osprey flying back. You can see that I'm still not using combined arms that well. I don't have enough support, and while Delta is great, it doesn't do well against vehicles. Like, it just doesn't do anything at all. So that's why I'm going to call in some Thunderbolts, fire support for Delta as Delta pushes in. STT pushing in case they push in with a helicopter back on me. And, well, as for the rest, thinking of getting some more units in. I'm just not sure exactly what to bring in at this point. I would have loved a second Brutus. And I'm actually going to relocate my Brutus over there to where the Osprey is going to drop off the supplies, so I can start shooting up from there. A couple of helicopters from my ally pushes in and almost deals with the Ranger Stinger over there. This Super Cobra was flying in very, very, very aggressively. Interestingly, my guys over at Alpha, from my team that is, were managing to push forward so that there's not that much AA left. But there is another Stinger team, and they're making it very difficult for these helos to push in. There's a second helicopter dead. The enemy's pushing back with 3 helos of their own. And of course, my AA team is out of ammo. Great. Option for me is now to get a couple of killer eggs. I have 1 more Stinger missile on that STT. And it does do some damage, but not enough. So Delta gets to fall back. I'm not pushing into an Apache, because it will eat me. In fact, it's already trying to eat me. So smoke up, run away. Brutus relocating to the Osprey's position. Osprey drop off supplies. STT. Where to go, where to go. Not sure. I'm going to try getting some supplies over to the STT, because there's a lot of helos and they all want some stingers. I just gotta go supply them. Almost the end of phase 2, and you can see that the battle is still shifting. The enemy now has 57% of caps, we got 29. So they're going to stand to make a +2, and kills-wise we're 2 even. This is not good. We are too close. This means nobody is going to get points from kills, so the enemy is just going to get a couple of points. Strike Eagle thinks it's going to come in and just bomb my stuff. It does, but it does get shot down by a killer egg. Unfortunately, they managed to knock out a killer egg, my team over there, and my supplies, so that was a bit of a downside. But hey, so be it. Delta immediately murders the airborne squad that they find in front of them. This is the beauty of using short-range Delta squads, because they just start killing very, very hard the moment that they actually get into range. Thunderbolts to support, Rangers to move even farther, and I want to start spotting more, because my allies do have a lot of arty. I just need to provide them with targets, so that's what I'll do. Phase 2 ending, and that's a +2 for the enemy. Well, we're not out of the fight yet, because phase 3, everything becomes even more valuable. So ideally in phase 3, we're going to get the big comeback, we're going to start pushing very hard, and if we can get a whole bunch of kills, that will even out the points advantage that they have right now. Let's see it, we're seeing some tanks out in the open on the right hand side. There's an Apothecary Guardian again, I'm trying to get into position to laze it. A nice squad of Rangers you got there. Delta just eats them for breakfast. My M8 Thunderbolts are in position to support, but now I lack anti-air. So, once again, trying to get some Comanches in to support. And, well, the good news is, my sniper teams are so sneaky that unless the enemy manages to get right on top of them, they won't get detected. But it also means I can't actually engage with them. There we go, they're encountering Delta Force here. Delta running. Thunderbolt's not in a good position, and STT only carries 4 missiles. So, well, we might be able to get some damage in, but not enough. Flyer GMV going for the downed pilot there. I think it was the pilot from the Raptor that came in. Brutus standing by, and there's an Apache Guardian flying... sorry, 2 Guardians, in fact, flying directly over my sniper team. So now I actually turn them loose, and I do get some damage in, but it's rather symbolic. It doesn't actually do a whole lot of damage. Comanche standing by, and once again my Rangers find 4,500 points of supply, so immediately the Brutus goes after it. I'm starting to see the effects of not having fire support against AA, or against helos, so the STT needs to start pushing in. There's an Apache Guardian. That is some damage, but not a kill. The Apache Guardian fires back, so they got a Stinger loadout. Which, of course, at this point I should have known, because I encountered them before. There's one. This Comanche gets to go home because it's too badly damaged. There's another hit from the STT on the killer egg, and another killer egg takes a hit, but not a kill. And the last Comanche's missile takes it out. Okay, we got another bird coming in. And that is, I think, another F-15, which tends to do a strafing run. Doesn't quite get the damage in. The Comanche shoots back, doesn't get the kill. I think either of us are going to really want to continue this fight. So, at this point, he falls back, I fall back, and it's all fine. We'll see each other again at some later date. Let's get the STT deployed. I need to have more AA, because it seems that their answer to, well, everything... is using helicopters and or aircraft. That's a good kill. In hindsight, I should have used the slam ram more, because there was ample opportunity for me to use the slam ram against, well, many of their targets, as they didn't really seem to have a whole lot of seed flying around. Now, my guys over at, or rather towards Bravo, are a bit exhausted, so I don't want to use them to fight. The Apache Guardian flew over my deltas. Oh, sorry, over my Green Berets. Didn't actually find them. So I thought, yeah, fine. Call in some supplies. Make sure the STT keeps supplied. Little bird goes home. And the Apache Guardian, if it wants to fight, that's fine. I got STT. Come fight me. A couple of additional Ranger Maw standing by. This is my AT option. There we go. There's another Stinger team in position. The Warpig is in a nice little alley from where it can engage that sniper, that AA team. So a bit of extra pressure on them. The STT is now engaging the Guardian. That Guardian really does need to go because it's starting to threaten my Brutus. This is, I think, the first time that they really ventured out that far with a helicopter. I think the STT does get the kill. Yeah, there we go. I think it was the STT that eventually took them out, but it was close. Oh, it actually might have been the LVADs down there. A couple enemy targets, but nothing high value. Trying to push forward a bit with the other units. I want to supply my deltas first before being able to push in. Especially since Bravo is a very open area. I don't feel like pushing in. 10 minutes left. We have 43% of map control. They got 57. The enemy is not doing as well as we are for kills. And that means we are starting to make a +3. But they too will make a +3 based on the amount of caps that they have. Alpha is once again threatened, so our front line is pretty much breached. And in hindsight, I should have defended Alpha a little harder. The challenge that I find I have with this deck, and you might perceive this entirely differently, is Alpha has a few buildings in it, but once you get past Alpha towards the enemy's front line, you're going to find nothing. It's just a couple of oil drums, which makes it quite difficult. Hello, Comanche. That's one down. That's half another one down. And you're dead. Good. Good talk. Alright, let's get the killer eggs flying in. I'm going to fly them in low, making sure that we can suppress these airborne guys. And they're actually way too close, so they both start taking damage. There's enemy AA all over the place. But then again, killer eggs have already paid themselves back, taking out the Comanches. So I don't really mind it. Of course, yes, I should have kept them alive. Also, the little bird got destroyed. And that means that the TOW 2B team inside also got destroyed. So not my best work. I was trying to get my TOW 2B team to set up, well, relatively close to one of those buildings to make sure that I could start dealing with enemy vehicles. But under these conditions, that was not going to work out. Supplies coming in. Warpig under a lot of pressure here. My deltas are eliminating their stingers. Get the delta over there. Get the MTV to go back to base. And once again, there is a couple of killer eggs. My Comanche is still equipped with a couple stingers, but potentially not enough. So I call in an A-10. A bit of a weird choice of aircraft, potentially. Especially as mine's loaded up with cluster bombs. But I'm trying to call it in to get the Avenger to shoot. That's the GAU 8 weapon that they carry. Maybe I can do some strafing runs on those helos. In hindsight, I probably should have called in a Raptor or an F-35. Would have been a better option. And of course, they immediately find the Brutus and go, "Ah, that's very nice you got there." Boom. Brutus dead. Killer Egg starts taking 1 hit, 2 hits. They're shooting back at the Comanche. Comanche once more. Nope. No joy. At this point, the A-10 comes in, and the A-10 goes, "Oh, you want me to kill that? Sure. Let me throw cluster bombs on it." That's not what I wanted you to do. No, actually, he doesn't throw cluster bombs. He just strafes it, but he does take a bunch of damage in return because those killer eggs are loaded out with stingers. And what you saw there was, I think, the supplies of mine going up. Not exactly why, but okay, they managed to get the supplies. Trying to chase the killer egg with a thunderbolt. This was getting pretty stupid at this point. But hey, it's a game, and I was having fun with the thunderbolt. Briefly, that is. Because, of course, my guys weren't doing that well. Now, 7 minutes left. The enemy has 86% of map control. We got a whole bunch of kills. Each side stands to make a +9, which is unacceptable. Because at that point, the enemy will win. So we need to start pushing on Bravo. We need to start capping Alpha. And that should mitigate their cap control. There we go. The A-10 still gets killed off. I think that F-22 managed to make it out, though. Let's get Delta to move. I think the other Delta squad has been healed up. Actually, no, the other Delta squad closer to Bravo had been eliminated. Cycling the STTs, getting the Thunderbolts once again to try and support. We got 6 minutes left. Something has to move. Preferably quickly. Let's get some weapon squads. That's a nice fire support unit. That's a killer egg going down. Thank you, STT. They fired that while running. Don't ask me how. Delta moving forward. And sometimes this is the moment when you realize that the enemy really doesn't have that much. Delta very quickly makes short work of those airborne troops. And at that point, they kind of start overextending. That's my bad. I shouldn't have pushed them as far. Because by pushing them that far, I was exposing them to enemy fires. Or to enemy vehicles, which they wouldn't have any answer to. If the enemy, however, drops off a bunch of infantry, that is something I can work against. But you can see that Delta now comes under pressure from 3 different sides. This is not going to work. This is absolutely not going to work. I tried to push in the Thunderbolt, not noticing the obstacle there. So the Thunderbolt couldn't actually shoot. Thunderbolt falls back. Delta falls back. They have this point for now. But as you can see, over the whole battle, I have been making some progress. 5 minutes left. The enemy stands to make a +6, but we're going to make a +9. That would put us at 10 versus 11, with us winning the fight. Let's hope that's enough. Because if the enemy starts killing a whole bunch of stuff, or manages to get another cap, we could be in a lot of trouble. But thankfully somebody at Alpha is trying to push their M1A2 in, but there's still something in there. So we cannot actually get Alpha. Nice supply drop has been spotted again by the Green Berets. I think at this point the Brutus was still on cooldown, so I couldn't use that, unfortunately. I got my Osprey coming in with a bunch more troops to try and push for the last time on Alpha. Because, well, with 4 minutes left, I don't have a lot more time to start organizing another push. Thunderbolt spots a Delta force both inside the building and close to that supply dump, so those guys are definitely trying to heal up. My own Delta managed to, well, they came back from the brink. One guy is surviving. Osprey dropping off. Thunderbolt over here, sometimes getting shot off, but rarely. There's another Thunderbolt. I think it's going to be Thunderbolt on Thunderbolt action here, but my Apache Guardian, no sorry, my standard Apache might also help out. I have my standard Apache loaded out with rocket pods, both AP rocket pods and standard Hydras, so that I can very quickly pop up, murder a couple of infantry units, such as Delta out in the open. That really, really helps. And then fall back. It is not supposed to go for extended fights, because it simply doesn't have the ordnance to do that. Also, I don't typically live long enough to have to worry about that. As was shown by, I think, that shore rat that they have over there. Now, I was wondering what the hell was going on with that truck, but I think it was just doing something weird. Points. The enemy's making a +3, we're making a +9. Let's see if I can get some kills. The B-2 Spirit, once more. Loaded out with 16 cruise missiles, but I'm going to do it a little better this time around. I'm going to make sure that that thing actually manages to survive. Targets. I wonder how good the enemy AA still is. So let's start sending cruise missiles against Delta Force, against a Thunderbolt, against the supply dump. Then I'm going to try and get this thing to circle back before the enemy AA manages to kill it, and boom. This is when the damage starts to rack up. B2 coming around again. I tell it to circle back again. There's some damage in on the infantry. This really, really, really helped. And because the rest of the front line was a bit busy, there wasn't that much AA. And the Spirit wasn't empty. It still had 7 missiles left. But I was not planning on losing that bird, because that could have cost us the +3 advantage. 2 minutes left. The enemy 57% cap control. We're on 43, but the enemy just managed to kill a few more units, and now we're at a +6. So at this point, it's going to be an 8 versus 7 in our favor. But in 1.5 minutes, many things can still change. Caps can shift. Kills can suddenly shift, especially as people have large troop concentrations for those final pushes. And if somebody decides to throw a nuke on that and get a whole lot of points, well, that could cost us another couple of points that we could be getting. So it was a very, very tense 90 seconds here, and I really wanted to get into Bravo. If I was going to lose the troops, so be it. I didn't really mind. I just wanted to push. I wanted to move into Bravo. I don't have much, though. I got a bunch of infantry. Not a whole lot of AA to speak of. And 1 tank. that's it. Rangers rushing forward, weapon squad rushing forward, 70 seconds left. I think these deltas aren't going to really have that much of an option against the Thunderbolt. But they are in a position where they're actually going to be kind of sneaky. Because that road, that bridge if you will, you need to get under it if you want to be able to shoot these guys. So the Thunderbolt is to push to the other side of the cap, and now we can get a shot off. They really need to go. They really need to go. I think we got them out at this point. Yeah, we're flipping Bravo. The enemy, however, is on a +6 if this persists in 30 seconds. That means that it's going to be a win for them. Because they're on +6, we're on +6, but now we're on +6 and they're on +3. 20 seconds left. Thunderbolt decides to dash forward because, well, who knows? There might not have been much. I might have been able to kill some high-value artillery units. 10 seconds left. We got Bravo. The enemy stands to make +3. We're going to make +6. Ranger Maws under attack. Throw smoke to try and at least stop that attack from happening. And you can see the Thunderbolt spots absolutely nothing. And there we go. 8 versus 7. We gain 6 victory points. And it's a minor victory. But brother, that was close. That was very, very close. 1.24 KD. I managed to get my elo up to 828 at this point. So making some progress. But good lord. That was tight. That was tight. Really enjoyed the match. Really good fighting on both sides. Really good back and forth as well. Kill death, not anything really too special. You can see the first B2 got some Iron Thunders. Beyond that, it didn't really get that much. Yes, this helped, that second bombing run. As for my losses, as can be expected, the B2 Spirit as well as the B1B Lancer managed to get some kills, but nothing too serious. So that was that match. Hope you have enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are down below, and I shall see you soon for more Broken Arrow.